one is too like an image and says nothing, and the other too like my lady's eldest son, ever more tattling.
If all you know of Shakespeare is his plays, and they've confused you since your younger days, their words abstract and hard to understand, then brace yourself to take a different stand.
Shakespeare's full of sex and violence and comedy. We've elevated Shakespeare to this kind of academic, mystical figure that he never intended to be.
Lord, I could not endure a husband with a beard on his face.
In Shakespeare's time, it seems, the actors had to act in plays they'd never seen or read. The scenes were broken down to separate parts. The players just rehearsed the theater arts.
Will you not tell me who you are?
Not now.
Brian Allard is founder and artistic director of Original Practice Shakespeare Festival.
Why, he is the prince's jester. A very dull fool.
OPSF is a company dedicated to performing plays the way they were presented in Shakespeare's day. It's not at all what you might expect.
That my lady Beatrice should know me and not know me? The prince's fool? Ha! Ha ha! Ha!
Rehearsing every show begins with an overview of Shakespearean history and poetic form. Brian is passionate about sharing information.
In Shakespeare's day, they didn't rehearse. They didn't have a director. That didn't exist until much, much later in history. So, how did they do that? They had improv skills, much like what our improvisers today have. They learned how to create a stage picture and things like that without being told by a director. They had scrolls that have their lines and their cues. They didn't get a full copy of the text. So they had their own lines written down. If you got everybody together, you had everybody's lines written down. That's how they did that. What we're trying to do in this workshop is give you tools to use to direct yourself from the text. Because you don't have a director, you don't have a playwright to talk to, he's been dead for a while. So you have to try to uncode everything from the text, and we can uncode an awful lot from our own text. And then there's a lot of stuff that we have to uncode in the moment on the stage when something happens, which is part of the fun part.
The most radical difference for these actors is that they'll never rehearse as a group. Instead, each actor learns and memorizes only their part. They literally don't know what any other character might say.
In Shakespeare's day, they hadn't read any of the plays in advance, so they never saw the play. They just got their own lines, and the first performance of the play was an adventure for everyone. You shall keep the action downstage unless the text instructs you to do otherwise. Don't stand way up by the tent, because then you're farther away from the audience. Play down here right by the audience. Play in the audience. Get out there and talk to them.
In Shakespeare's time, there were rules for the stage. When you should move came direct from the page.
Thou shalt cross in closely enough to break the personal space when using thee, thou, and thy. Okay? Or thou shalt cross more distantly for you, your, or your. All they have is their lines and their cues. So if you say to somebody, sit down, no director's told them to do that, so they have to follow the direction that you've given them. There's a scene right now, and you two are over there, and I'm over here, and I need to talk to her. I'm going to cross to her, and he's going to move. He's not going to stay there like a plonker, because that's really irritating. My role as a director is significantly different than it would be in a traditional rehearsal process.
Now you see, sir, how your fooling grows old and people dislike it.
I help the actors one-on-one with the language, because in Shakespeare's time, the actors would have been experts in this type of poetical, heightened language. They would have studied it. That would be what they do all the time.
Tell him I'll none of it.
When spring arrives, the players move outside to practice basic moves and learn their lines.
So we're going to go through a little bit of improv-y type stuff at first. You're at an airport and you're waiting for your plane.
Why did I bring a monkey to the airport? Why? Security!
There's a dog on the stage. Sing to it.
Hello, puppy. Go to sleep, puppy. I'll see you tomorrow, puppy.
Okay, good.
Like a team playing ball, they practice it, all then use what they need in performance.
The idea behind a soliloquy is that we're sharing our inner thoughts with the audience. And we really need to think of the audience as another character.
See, how she leans her cheek upon her hand. Oh, that I wore a glove upon that cheek, that hand even, that I might touch that cheek. The end.
On the day of a show, Brian posts a list of who will play which part. There's a quick rehearsal of any dances or fights, things that involve the group. Otherwise, each actor is on his or her own.
We carry our own lines on a scroll as a backup for our memorization. And then as a backup to that, we have an onstage prompter there as well.
We present Much Ado About Nothing. Act 1, Scene 1.
The prompter is historically accurate. It was an important role during Shakespeare's time, too. Someone has to keep things moving and provide a line if an actor forgets.
My cousin means Signor Benedict of Padua.
Oh, he's returned and as pleasant as he ever was.
I pray you, how many hath he killed and eaten in these wars? But how many hath he killed? For indeed, I promise to eat all of his killings.
We have a few mottos, but one of them is deal with it. Whatever happens, you just have to deal with it. If a little kid rides through your stage on a little ATV, you have to just deal with it. You can't ignore it.
At the end of the day, the play's the thing, bringing Shakespeare's traditional way of presenting a story to new audiences.
You have no employment for me?
None, but to desire your good company.
Oh, God, sir. Here's a dish I love not. I cannot endure this lady tongue.
You learn quickly that the audience is on your side. We tell the audience up front, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. We're going to make mistakes, and we're going to make them big. And audiences love it.
I would not marry her, though she were endowed with all that Adam had left him before he transgressed. And she would have made Hercules have turned spit, yea, and have cleft his very club. What am I talking about? Shakespeare writes a lot.
What would Shakespeare think of OPSF? Brian Allard hopes that he would say yes, a style of Shakespeare that's based in his words, performed outdoors with a background of birds.
We're Shakespeare for the regular guy. And to that testament, it's nice that we get a lot of people saying to us, I never understood Shakespeare before I saw your show.
We must follow the leaders.
In every good thing.
Nay, if they lead to any ill, I'll leave them at the next turning.